Hi guys, so we are on part 31 of our book Posted, and we're on page 322. Now I was afraid that he wouldn't stop. There were still a dozen models by his feet, but at the rate he was going, there was soon to be nothing left. Wolf, let's just talk about it, I said. He turned and glared at me, at us. Forget it, he snapped. Just leave me alone. Rose looked at Dee Dee and me. I'd never seen her panicked before, not even staring down the mouth of the gauntlet. But at that moment, she looked lost. What should we do? She asked. You know him better than I do. I wasn't sure that was true anymore. Back when it was just the four of us, it was easy. We all knew our place. We counted on Dee Dee for the drama. We counted on Wolf to be reasonable. We counted on Bench to stick up for us. But here was Wolf, no longer reasonable, slugging away at his models, and Bench nowhere to be seen. And me? What did we count on me for? Standing on the other side of the fence, watching Wolf destroy the things he loved, I realized I hadn't done anything. This whole time I'd simply stood there and watched a part of the chorus, afraid to speak up, afraid I'd somehow make it worse. I was tired of feeling helpless, but before I could do anything, I needed to know who was responsible. I put a hand on Rosa's shoulder. I think it surprised her. It surprised me a little, too. I gotta go. Dee Dee looked at me like I was crazy. What? Go where? I'm sorry, I said. There's something I really need to do. You got this? It was a stupid question, I knew. The three of us on one side, Wolf on the other, holding a baseball bat and yelling at us to go home. Dee Dee shook his head empathetically, but Rose nodded. She understood. Yeah, we got this, she said, putting her hand on top of mine. I gave Wolf one last look, but he ignored me and he took another swing, and more pieces went flying as another busted battleship was buried in the grass. I could still make out the explosions of cracked plastic even once I was a block away. The Joneses lived on the other side of the district from Wolf in a two-story house with a brick front and a big enough backyard that you could play wiffle ball and never have to worry about hitting it over into the neighbors. I'd ridden or walked to the stretch between Bench's house and mine with its goose poop bombed sidewalks 100 times, so many I could do it backward without tripping over the cracks in the cement. Bench and I were the two members of the tribe who were closest to each other. His house on the way to school, so I was always picked up first. Why, I was always the one who saved the seat. I walked slow, planning out what I was going to say. I wasn't even sure he would be home yet. School had barely ended by the time I reached his neighborhood, but I decided that if he wasn't there, I would wait. I would sit on the curb until he showed. I wasn't going to leave without an answer. Like with Wolf, I heard him before I saw him. Thunk, thunk, thunk. Turning the corner to find him in his driveway, basketball in hand. I followed the rhythm of its bounce as he drove to the hoop, then pulled up to nail a jumper, all whisper, no clang. He was always a better shot. Bench spotted me at the end of the drive and immediately looked up and down the street. I remember doing the same thing when Rose showed up at my door. I'd been doing it for weeks now. Just you? He asked, bouncing the ball twice before tucking it under his arm. I came farther up the driveway so we could talk without yelling. I'd never yelled at any of my friends, not really, not yet anyway. Just me, I said. He had to know why I was here, but I said it anyway. We need to talk about Wolf. Bench looked at me, shielding his eyes from the sun. Even in the chill air, he'd already worked up a sweat. What's there to talk about? It wasn't me, you know that. He knows that, at least he should. He started bouncing the ball again, except he didn't dribble this time so much as pound, as if he was trying to bust up the blacktop with each bounce. He turned and took another shot, bricking it off the backboard this time. He hissed a word that Ruby Sandals had already gotten in trouble for. He seemed mad, which just made me angrier. What did he have to be mad about? I got to the ball before he could, snatching the rebound, holding it at my side. Bench put his hands on his hips. Give me the ball, Frost. I shook my head. You still owe me one, remember? I shifted it to my chest. I was determined to get his attention, determined for him to look me in the eyes and tell me the truth. Bench smirked. Right, he said. I owe you one. Whatever, man, just give it here. He lunged for the ball, and I twisted, starting an absurd game of keep-away. He reached out with one hand, attempting to knock it out of my grasp, and I moved the other way. He swiped, and I dodged. The two of us seemed some ludicrous dance in his driveway. Finally, he got both hands on the ball and wrenched it from my arms with a grunt, the rough rubber scraping the underside of my chin. "Grow up," he said. Bench dribbled twice, then took another shot, bricking it again. It rebounded right toward me, and I kicked it on the first bounce. The ball sailed into his front yard, missing his head by inches. "What the heck is wrong with you, man?" he was shouting now. "What's wrong with me? What is wrong with you?" I yelled back, first time for everything. I couldn't help it. Right now, our friend, your friend, is standing in his backyard smashing up all his freaking models with a baseball bat because of something some jerk wrote on his locker, and here you are acting like it's no big deal. I never said it was no big deal, and I already told you I had nothing to do with it. Bench tromped into the grass after his ball so that I had to keep shouting at his back. But I bet you know who it did. Was it Cameron? Was it Noah, Jason, or somebody else? Another one of your friends? Bench froze, bent over the ball at his feet. "They aren't my friends." He came back to the blacktop with its cradled tight. "I don't hang out with Cameron and those guys. I don't even talk to them. You know that." "But people say stuff," I reminded him. "Not me." He lined up another shot. "Yeah, right." The ball clanged off the rim. We both let it roll past us, down the driveway and into the street. What's that supposed to mean? He turned toward me, taking a step closer. For a moment, I thought he was going to push me, and I braced myself. "You're telling me you've never said anything about any of us? Not me, not Wolf, not Rose? Don't bring her into this," Bench said, holding up a finger. "Everybody says stuff about her. You've said stuff about her." He stuck that same finger in my chest. That stopped me. I couldn't remember what all I'd said about Rose in those first few days. I'd thought plenty of things, and I'd heard so many more and said or done nothing. "What about Dee Dee?" I asked. "You're telling me you've never said anything about him to the guys you hang out with?" Bench frowned, shaking his head. Dead giveaway. "I didn't tell Cameron about Dee Dee's stupid dice," he muttered. "But you told somebody." I stared at him. People always told me I had my mother's eyes. Frustrated, Bench threw his hands in the air. "Fine, I told somebody. Big deal. I was with some of the guys on my team. We were getting something to eat that night after the game." He paused, realizing what else he had just let slip. "The night after the game, after the catch, the night Rose showed up at Wolf's door and saved us all from the undead horde, all of us but Bench. There were 6 of us, and one of them couldn't decide what to order, so somebody else said flip a coin, and I started laughing." "You told them?" "I said I knew somebody who did that all the time. I was just kidding around," Bench protested. "Just a bunch of guys talking smack. They rolled their eyes, called Dee Dee a freak. That was it. I didn't know Cameron would find out or that he'd do what he did. I mean, who cares what Dee Dee keeps in his pocket?" "Dee Dee, for one," I snapped. "And me, and you, at least you used to." Bench rolled his eyes, still trying to blow it off. "I told you, Cameron's not my friend. I can't control what he says or does, what any of them do." "Any of them?" He knew. I knew he knew. "You still shouldn't have said anything." "Well, maybe Dee Dee shouldn't carry his toys around with him everywhere he goes. Maybe he needs to grow up too." Bench glared at me. I glared right back. "Funny, that's what Cameron said before he tried to stuff Dee Dee's head in the toilet." "And where were you?" I wanted to add, but I'm pretty sure he got the message. He took a step back, putting more space between us. "What do you want me to say?" he shouted. "You want me to apologize? Fine. I'm sorry you and Dee Dee got jumped in the bathroom, all right? I'm sorry I never said anything about Dee Dee's stupid dice. I'm sorry I'm not there to babysit you guys every time you walk down the halls or sit and play your stupid little games at lunch. I'm sorry not everybody likes you or the people you hang out with. I'm sorry people call you names behind your back. Did I miss anything? How about I'm sorry for acting like a total jerk and completely dissing all my friends?" "I didn't diss you," Bench insisted. "You left us." Bench groaned, both hands on his head. "Ah, Frost! Do you even hear yourself? You make it sound like we're some kind of secret superhero society. That's not how it is." "You're wrong. You find your people," I said, repeating the mantra that carried me through those first 2 weeks in the 6th grade, my mother's promise that held up when a boy named JJ came and sat next to me on the bus. "You find your people and you make your tribe." "That's exactly what I'm talking about, man!" Bench said. "There is no tribe. And even if there was, I'm not the one who changed things. You come here and blame me for screwing things up, but I'm not the one who invited that girl to come sit with us in the first place. That girl? Maybe he didn't know what to call her. There were too many names to choose from. So you're just going to blame it all on Rose then? I'm not the one looking for someone to blame, Bench yelled, jamming a thumb to his chest, stepping up, closing the gap between us again. You don't like her, so the heck with the rest of us? I never said that. Or maybe it's Wolf you have a problem with. Man, don't even go there, Bench snarled. Because you heard all the stuff people were saying. Just stop right now, Frost. Because it's easier to just go with the crowd than to stand up for your friends? That's not what I'm saying. Then what are you saying? I'm saying that it's not even about you, Bench shouted. He was so close now that I could count his heartbeats through the throbbing veins in his neck. I didn't back away, though, even as he kept on yelling right in my face. Did it ever dawn on you that maybe I didn't feel like I belonged sometimes? That I might want to hang out with somebody else? That maybe, just maybe, I might not want to be with you guys all the time? I mean, he sputtered, I don't even like Dungeons and Dragons. Silence. We stood right next to each other, bodies stiff, locked in an epic eyeball-burning staring contest, the kind that you expect to devolve into grunts and shoves as two kids wrestle each other to the ground. My lower lip started to tremble, and then I laughed. I laughed right in his face. I couldn't help it. It came out first as a snort, then a building giggle, high-pitched and uncontrollable and ridiculous, laughing so hard that my chest hurt. Bench looked at me like I'd lost my mind, but then it hit him too, and he chuckled softly to himself. What part don't you like? I asked breathlessly, the dungeons or the dragons? Bench shook his head. None of it, man. Honestly, I was faking it the whole time. For some reason, that just made me laugh harder. I thought about so many Saturday nights at Dee Dee's house, rolling the dice, Garthrox the barbarian shouting and swinging, Bench cutting up and carrying on. He had me fooled. He had us all fooled. Seriously, I mean, you never liked it? I only played because I wanted to hang out with you guys. I stopped suddenly, wiping hot tears from my eyes. Wanted to. Past tense. But not anymore, I said softly, sniffling. Bench shrugged. I wasn't sure if it was an I don't know shrug or a that's just how it is shrug. I wasn't sure what to say. I felt drained, all used up. I flashed back to the night my father left, how I'd been the first to let go just a little. I thought about the blank spaces in my mother's senior yearbook, about the empty seat next to me on the bus. I'd been here before. I waited for him to talk first. When he did, his voice was softer. After that game last week, things were just different. I can't explain it. I caught that ball and they all swooped in and lifted me up and carried me out, and it was almost like I was this other person, you know? I mean, it was incredible. I was there, I said. I saw. I cheered you on, I thought, even though you couldn't hear me, even though things had already started to change between us. I was there. You just didn't realize it. I didn't mean for what happened with you and Dee Dee, and I didn't have anything to do with Wolf, I swear. I'd heard people say it, and I knew what it meant, but I didn't get involved, and I didn't write that on his locker, I swear. But you know who did, I pressed. Bench looked back down the street again. I don't think he was looking to see if anyone was there. I think he just didn't want to look at me. This isn't about you either, I told him. It wasn't about him or me or Dee Dee or even Rose. This was about Wolf. Bench took a deep breath and nodded. Yeah, he said. I know who wrote it. But if I tell you, you gotta promise me you won't go and do anything stupid. I promised. I had no idea what I was going to do, but I promised anyways. All right, he said. And even though there wasn't another soul around, Bench still leaned over to whisper in my ear. Head over to Schoology.